Hi, everybody. Glad you could join us. We're going to go ahead and answer a couple more of your questions, maybe 2 or 3 of them, that you gave us in response to the survey we sent out. And glad for the opportunity to hear what you're thinking about, what some of your concerns are, so we can kind of customize some of these answers. And I'll throw it to Jeremy and let him go ahead and tell you what some of those are, and then I'll try to answer some of those questions and give you maybe a couple little demonstrations to help. So Jeremy.
Hey, thank you, Darrell. I appreciate the introduction, and thank you all for being here for part 2 of our series. And as promised, in this video we're going to talk about some opportunities to troubleshoot the common frustrations and problems that you're going to face as you draw with colored pencils. Darrell's had a lot of experience and worked through a lot of frustrations, so I think he's got some great information for you. But first, I want to recap real quickly what we looked at in the first video. If you saw it, you'll remember that Darrell first started with some of the basic materials from paper, even what side of the paper works best, and he introduced some of his favorite colored pencils, the col-erase pencils, and showed some of the similarities to graphite. And then he introduced us to the color wheel and how we can use as an exercise to experiment with different colors and see how they blend and how you can seamlessly create custom color combinations for whatever project you may be working on. So anyway, today I want to talk about troubleshooting. And Darrell, I know we sent out the survey and we got some pretty specific questions and statements about struggles that people are facing. So if you have a few minutes, I want to address those specifically. Now, first question that we've got, there's more of a statement, I guess, but one person states that I would like to learn how to build up layers gently and blend without waxy buildup. So that seems to be a pretty common issue that we face, or that people are facing. So you start layering these waxy pencils, and before you know it, you've got this mess on your hands essentially. So I'm wondering, is there a way that you can avoid this?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I talked about in the last time we met was that the core concepts for my 5-pencil method, I think, work so well to help us avoid some of these things and accomplish some of the very things that you're hoping to, have to draw a good portrait or whatever. And that is, let me go to the other camera here, that is the basic tapered stroke. And that tapered stroke, again, is a very, very controlled stroke because of the way I hold my pencil with the heel of my hand down. So I can always have a very precise placement of that stroke. And by doing that, I can start putting them side by side and creating what I call the patch exercise. But this gives us so much opportunity to just get a feel for it. So a regular pencil is not all that bad to use and get used to some of these mechanics and some of the things that you need to find out about pressure and fading things away and coming up with a good clean edge and making sure that you're able to put down a nice smooth foundation. But you'll notice one thing that happens. This is usually going to be in every aspect of my drawing. Most of the time, when this is the only thing on the paper, it is going to represent, I thought I could just quickly cover that up. If there's only 4H on the paper, which is a very light, hard pencil, it actually is the darkest thing on the paper. So when I start drawing, I often go to all the places that will naturally have a darker value when I end up by developing it to the finish or as I go along. And then each one should be a little bit darker. There should be an incremental increase. And as you go along, you'll find that the softer the pencil is, and this is just purely that pencil, which is pretty much what you're going to be working with colored pencil. By the time you get to your 4B, which isn't the softest one, you'll end up by having much more grain. So let me just zoom in here just a little bit just to make sure that you can see that, because this is something very, very common to colored pencils. You'll see that this is quite smooth. The harder pencil allows me to be able to just feather that on there, and yet it has wonderful coverage on the paper. And then the softer, the darker each pencil gets, then we end up by having this grain. Well, if many of you are drawing in color pencils, I think one of the most common things that ends up by happening is that you end up by having something that is very, very coarse. And so if you're drawing with Prismacolor, let's say, very high wax content, and that's the thing about it, is most of the pencils, to get the intensity and that brilliant color and that saturation, they're very, very wax-based. And then there's other ones that are oil-based. There's very few that are dry and actually have, they don't have the wax base, so I can do all kinds of cool things with them. Now, if I'm going to go ahead with my Prismacolor, you'll notice that when I go over that texture of the paper, and I need the tooth. Oh, the tooth is so important. The tooth is the only thing that's going to help this pigment come off of the pencil lead, whatever you want to call it. I guess it isn't lead because but I guess it is. It isn't a graphite lead anyway. But anyway, as we want to, have an opportunity to have all different kinds of a range of value, even with these, I'm going to have tooth. That tooth is like this. If we looked at the paper, from the side, just a quick little review. If we looked at the paper right from the side and we could just do a high magnification, the tooth is like this. Maybe it's a little bit irregular, but these little valleys are what actually appear white because the Prismacolor pencil just goes right across the top and colors the top of all these little peaks, and it doesn't get down into the recesses. So that's exactly what's happening here. Now, one of the things that I do to avoid this is that I will come in with my col-erase, and also I've found that I can get a lot of intensity even though I'm using my col-erase. Some people feel like, well, it's just not as brilliant as I would like to use, so I don't like col-erase. And if you can avoid pressing too hard, which is something I go over and over in my 5-pencil method technique, I want to gradually increase things. So this is what would happen. I'm going to take that very, very similar color, and you'll notice there's a change in the quality. There is a quality very much like that 4H pencil. And I'm having great saturation. For whatever reason, the harder pencil, look at how it doesn't show all the dots. It's much harder and yet softer than probably graphite, but still we have an opportunity to just create a wonderful base. Now, if I wanted to get a more brilliant color, I could come in here and I could do something quite a bit darker, but I also could come in over with my col-erase, my Prismacolor, or whatever brand you happen to be using, and now I'm going to have better saturation because I don't have all the little white specks showing through. And when the white specks show through, to me, I think subconsciously, it kind of makes you think that it isn't really recessed into a shadow area or a place that would be getting less light. And if you follow what I talk about often, light is very, very important. The lack of it or the highlights, those are things that I really want to be able to utilize and value in all of my work, because it has the ability to add depth and dimension and life and not have things go flat. So this is one reason why this exercise is so good too, because you go from dark to light. And right there I have an opportunity to demonstrate curve and dimension instead of having something that's all the same all the way across. So, but you can see if I lay down that col-erase, I have the opportunity to really come in there and cut down on that grain. Now there's another thing about col-erase that's really neat, because I could come in with something. I'll just use this Q-tip for example. I could come in here and I could maybe get a little bit of smoothing out on the Prismacolor, but in most cases, and every pencil seems to be a little bit different, in almost every case you're not going to get a whole lot of smoothing. On the col-erase, I do. And I can make it even smoother than what it was originally. I can even use my brush if I have a larger area, and I can control. One of the reasons I like these flat Lang nickel brushes is because they're flat, And I have a wonderful versatility because I can get an edge, I can get a corner or whatever and work in small places without having, it carrying over into other parts of my drawing I don't want it to carry over into. But you can see how I can make this really start becoming quite smooth. Now if I want to come in there even more and I use that tip of my pencil and I'm still using it as a slant. Remember, this is primary to the 5-pencil method because I'm not pointing it like that. And I'm trying to maintain and protect the tooth at all costs. In almost all drawing that I do, I want to make sure that I'm really making, taking great care to maintain my texture. That tooth that I showed you, right here. I want to maintain this as much as possible so it doesn't just lay down and then I can't, if it's laying down, I can't have it scraping off the pencil as I come across that tooth anymore. It's just sliding over it, which is one reason why you don't want to use a smooth board or a smooth paper. Some people think, well, I'll get this. I'll just use a smooth paper. Well, that doesn't work so well because you need to have that tooth. And so this is a way to avoid, many problems all at once by using this technique. Now, when I'm drawing, I have that, let's get out a little bit further. This is just one more thing. I have this opportunity to, I don't know. I think somebody asked a question about sharpening a pencil, but...
Yeah, this might be a good segue into that next question for you, Darrel.
Sure.
I've got a specific question that was asked, and this person asked or stated, I've always wanted to draw portraits in colored pencils and also flowers, but I've been afraid to give it a go in case I mess up. She says, with ordinary pencils, I know that I can erase the mistakes and start again. So, Darrel, that seems like a good question. You've gone to all this trouble of building up layers. Is that going to help you if you want to remove the colored pencils? Or is it even possible to remove colored pencils without making a big mess?
Well, this is another reason why I find that, some people may not gravitate towards the col-erase because they don't think it's maybe as intense. When I'm layering things, I have control because I can gently go over and increase the value a little bit at a time. Just, so I can get real close to the same intensity, and everything's relative. So, if I don't have something darker to contrast this with, this can look more intense than you might think. Naturally, if I put something very dark next to it, it's not going to look that dark. But when I'm layering this on, I have the opportunity to gradually increase the values. But watch, this is the other wonderful thing about it. Look at this. When I'm coming in with an eraser, and I can even do it with my Kneaded Eraser. You see I picked up some of this because I just tested a little bit ago. If I'm coming across my Prismacolor, the one with the heavier wax, and some of them aren't going to be able to take that much off, I'm not going to be able to get it off. Let's see what happens with the combination one. Ooh, a little bit more. And let's see what happens with the one where I haven't any wax in it at all. Isn't that neat? Now, if I'm drawing, and I spent quite a bit of time drawing, and then I see all of a sudden that something's not quite right and I want to make an adjustment, think of the advantages of being able to do this. I can't do a whole lot with this about lightening something up, but look at what happens with this. Just by tapping it off, I can now come up with this wonderful gradation in this lightening up something to maybe a little lighter value because I went past the point that I should have gone. And also, if I wanted to draw over again, if I'm already in the right color category, look at that. Even if there's a tiny bit of residue there, which it seems like there is, I have a chance to now draw over it. No one would ever know the difference. But if I come in here with this, I'm stuck. I can't do a whole lot with it. And some people might come up with different ways of blending this. Some of the companies put out blender. I don't know. I was just telling Jeremy a little bit ago that I don't even face some of these problems because I just developed my own approach to things to accomplish the end game. So I don't have to worry about dealing with all the problems. but they have blenders and things. There's even a solution you can put on here that dissolves, the color. But that makes it more permanent too, because it puts it down into the pigments of the paper like a watercolor or a stained area. And then you're not going to be able to get that off either. But look at the wonderful advantages. You may not even remember I had that patch there. But that's a great thing to me, because I can put highlights. I can go ahead and do maybe even a pattern if I'm working on a certain texture. I can come in with a more stiff eraser like the Mono Zeros, and I can really clean it if I want to, right down to the paper. Now I'm doing it with that one that has a little bit of the Prismacolor, so it isn't as white as it could have been. But if I was using this one, look at what happened. I could get at least that white. And that to me is just a wonderful thing, because I always want to be able to make changes. I don't do everything right. And as well as I can accomplish a drawing, sometimes it's the outcome that's what is really making it good, because I, along the way, decided to make some changes and alterations. I want all of you, each one of my students, to be able to have that same experience and not get so discouraged, because there's nothing like spending time with something and then run into a problem and you can't do anything about it. It's just a glaring problem. And you might even throw it away. I know a lot of artists just throw one after another away. Well, one of the reasons that I like the col-erase too, just another couple quick things, is like some of you may be familiar with the Goldilocks series. We were able to bring in color into our graphite drawings. And the col-erase is an absolutely perfect way of doing it. I found out many, many years ago that trying to do a graphite drawing first and then coloring it didn't work out so well. But if I keep an area open and I decide to add a little graphite, my regular pencil, to intensify a dark area or something over the color, it works quite well. And so the order of things is really important, and it helps you go ahead and accomplish so many things. We did this cat. This might be, this was a great opportunity for us to incorporate a little color pencil and then see the compatibility, so that you can continue drawing and have the opportunity to have something with a little accent. And here's some of the things that can be done with colored pencil. I used to do many, many children's illustrations, but this is really fun, because when I get finished doing my col-erase, then I can go ahead and bring some accents in. If I need a little extra color in a few places, a little extra detail, well, I can go ahead and now use the Prismacolor to make some of these fun little lines and accentuations on things. Maybe, some of the outlining of the clouds and a few things like that. So it's really fun to have the opportunity to maybe have a few different types of colored pencils. But I always like to, start out with the col-erase, basically because it's such a wonderful preliminary, and also it could be a finished product too, depending on what you want to do. And that color wheel that I mentioned yesterday, boy, what a wonderful opportunity it is, for you to find out for yourself what happens. If you were to make this color wheel, again, just a little reminder, if you draw a circle with a lid in your kitchen or a jar or something like that, just make your circle and pick out the pencils that you want to do and realize, okay, here is basically red, here is yellow. When I overlap them, I'm going to have orange. Here's green and yellow, and I'm going to have a yellow-green when I overlap them. And you can see that there's quite a range, quite a difference, as I go around. When I get to the blue, and then when I come in the middle, I'm going to start having something that's more of an aqua. And then the blue, getting towards the red, I start having the purples and the lavenders. Now, there's an opportunity to, have some of those in that smaller set, too. It's only 24 sets, and I would probably only use half of them. Some of them I just don't even care to use, and it might be rare that I would do it. But anyway, I just like some very basic colors, and like I said yesterday, you don't have to have every color in your palette. you know, to accomplish a lot of great things. That's one reason why I like, you know, the idea of having you experiment with that color wheel, because you'll realize, oh, wow, look at all the different ranges and all the variations of color that I can come up with just with a very simple bunch. When you have something like Prismacolor, they manufacture, I don't know, what is 160 colors or something like that. I don't know what it is. And I have nothing against Prismacolor, except for me, I like to start out with the other. There's a time and place for every material in every media. And yet for the col-erase, I can put Prismacolor over it. With the col-erase, I can even put down a wash underneath of it and put the col-erase over it. With the col-erase, I can go ahead and paint over it. It's dry, it's completely water soluble. With the oil color pencils, I'm going to have a hard time putting anything with a water content on it. Same thing with the Waxy buildup of the Prismacolor. So I just like the versatility. I like to be able to make decisions along the way and do whatever I want to. And there's so much more in the studio classes. We've approached a few things, but there's so much more to learn. There's so much to share, and we get in a lot more depth. But anyway, that might answer a couple questions.
Yeah, and Darrel, I got one more quick question for you.
Okay.
And you know, seeing all the detail in those illustrations that you've done over the years kind of reinforced the importance of this question, or more of a statement, I guess. But one of the survey takers said, "I tend to be very detail oriented, so I need sharper pencils." And I think what they're getting at is the fact that colored pencils tend to be softer, like you pointed out. The waxier pencils are softer, and the tips break off, so it's harder to keep them sharp. Now, do you have any pointers or opportunity to show us how to keep those pencils sharp?
Sure. Obviously, I'm going to go right back to one of the things that I mentioned before, was the col-erase has more of a, it's not graphite, but it has something that's very much like it in that it can keep a point pretty good. Now, if you use that pencil stroke that I try to at least introduce to people, because again, I think it's just an extremely versatile stroke that opens up all kinds of possibilities, and the application becomes different, but it's self-sharpening. When I'm using this stroke, it actually, because of the angle, you can see how off to the side, it isn't like this. Maybe that other camera would show you a little bit. It's at angle like this allows me to actually be continually sharpening and refining the point. Instead, if you're having to sharpen it often, it's often because you're actually pointing it more directly at the paper. So we're going to wear the tip off, just the same thing as graphite. When I'm out here like this and I have this wonderful stroke, I often twirl my pencil in my hand. It's just a habit I've developed over the years, and so I don't come with a wedge shape to my tip of the lead. I end up by just continually going around, and every once in a while I'll rotate it and catch a new edge, and I actually maintain the point and rarely have to sharpen it. But if I do, I have an electric pencil sharpener. I like those, partly because of the bevel on here is longer. On the handheld ones, often it's a steeper angle, and you don't have as long of a lead. But I'm not coming in here like this, because this would show all the tooth. Let's go ahead and now come from the top. If I'm coming in on the side, naturally that would maintain a point on the pencil as well. But look at the texture. See, now we're right back there what we had going on with the Prismacolor, in that it shows all the grain and all the tooth and all of that. So now, the advantage I have with this, though, is it's a little stiffer lead with the col-erase, and I'm not really putting too much pressure. I want to always practice to only put enough pressure to not score my paper, not to smooth out that texture of the paper. And so there's many advantages of it all at once, because I'm not going to break off the tip. But with the Prismacolor, let me see if I can just get one here quick. It's very possible, if you're trying to get a nice tip because you want the detail, first of all, you're going to have a good pencil sharpener. The sharper the pencil sharpener, the better it's going to be with some of these softer colored pencils. Even with the col-erase, it's softer than graphite. And so you really want to be able to have a pretty good pencil sharpener. And sometimes it just is, it's going to be good maybe to have a brand new one, I guess. But the older the pencil sharpener is, it may do your graphite fairly well. But see, when I'm coming like this, it's real easy for me to break that tip off. I'd be hard put to do that. So there we have something that's now a chisel, and we don't have the same application, and also maybe, you know, it won't be quite as sharp, even though, you know, I still have a pretty good line I can put down. But this is something that is quite a bit different, because with this, I can even at this angle out here, I have a very, very, very controlled, I could do sharp edges, something that's very important for dimension. And I can go ahead and do things soft. And remember the secret, the wonderful benefit. Isn't that great? I don't have to worry about being stuck with my Prismacolor not coming off. Look at that. So you couldn't ask for a whole lot more than that. And you can maintain the point of your pencil. You can come up with detail. You can continue building things. And you have forgiveness because you can keep making changes and altering things and backing up a little bit. Instead of being stuck with this, you can again take this and tap it off, just gradually lightening one end. Look at how wonderful that would be to, you know, if it was a different color and you're trying to do something that's coming into the light or showing a curve, you could maybe do a cheek like that and just take a little bit of the highlight out of the cheek if it was a skin tone. So it's just a matter of having an opportunity to cut to the chase and understand a few principles. And that's what I enjoy doing. I have had such a wonderful and unusual opportunity to do just thousands and thousands of illustrations over the years. And as an illustrator for 45 years, 50 years. And so it gave me the opportunity to experiment, run through all the problems you can't even possibly imagine. Well, maybe you can. I ran into every problem. I act like I know what I'm doing only because I've gone through them and had to find the solution. So now I have this wonderful joy of sharing with you, all of you. So that's just so much fun, because now for many of you that are maybe starting later in life, maybe you never had a chance for many years to ever do any drawing, now I can help you cut to the chase, help you avoid some of those years of experimentation and problems, and bring what I always say, more fun to your drawing experience. So that's just what I'm interested in doing, and it's just it makes it possible for some of you to do some absolutely amazing things and jump to the chase, and in a short time, with patience, you know, you can do some world-class stuff. So, or at least have fun at whatever level you're at. So anyway, hope that answers a little bit, Jeremy.
Oh, most definitely. That was awesome. And you know, I've sat through quite a few of your colored pencil classes, and you know, through an art studio, and but I still feel like I really learned a lot in this little video. So thank you.
That's very much. Great. There's always so much to cover, and it just depends on the question. And I don't mind repeating it. I know many things have been said over and over again, but that's how we learn. It's repetition. And sometimes we don't hear everything. So that's why these questions are just wonderful. The surveys, I thank you so much for answering these surveys and giving us an opportunity to pinpoint where you think you need a little help or maybe a suggestion. It just is really great. And anyway, yep, there's always something more to tell, or in a different way.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you very much, Darrell, for your time. And thank you all for watching. It was really great being able to do this. And we've got one more in our series, and we want to make sure that you're there. You're really going to want to see this one. Darrell's going to go a little bit deeper into intensifying colored pencil, the color. And we're going to address drawing skin tones. That was a really hot topic issue in the survey. A lot of people said, I want to draw portraits. You know, I'm interested in drawing people. And such a huge part of that is nailing that skin tone, getting that right. So tomorrow we'll go into that a little bit better. And Darrell, thank you so much.
Sounds exciting. Glad you could join us. thanks for also responding to the surveys again. You've already said that, but I can't tell you how much we appreciate that, because again, it helps us help you. So we'll see you in the next video.